Elise Walker is the name I go by. I am 46 years old, joined in matrimony for more than 20 years. A mother of 2 adult children married to Marcus, the founder and CEO of a tech company that has consumed every part of him throughout the years. To be completely frank, consumed me as well. Few discuss the experience of being wed to a man who perpetually remains absent. Even in the same room, his thoughts remain tethered to a spreadsheet, a board meeting, or an investor call. His form may rest next to you, yet his essence is tethered to the quarterly figures. Thus I evolved. I transformed into the figure shrouded in mystery, hidden from view, beaming at gatherings, organizing festive gatherings, bringing morning coffee to his office, driven by habit rather than affection. And so it began, clutching a steaming cup of coffee, adorned with a warm, inviting smile as I traversed the hallway. On a Tuesday morning, the world outside was draped in gray, as spring hesitated, caught in a dance of indecision about its arrival. As I entered the office, a familiar routine unfolded. I greeted the receptionist with a cheerful good morning and exchanged waves with a handful of colleagues I had known for years. As I rounded the corner leading to Marcus's office, I cradled 2 cups, one dark and bold for him, the other a delightful swirl of sweetness and froth for myself. It was at that moment that I laid eyes on him. Adam, propped against the tech support counter, his gaze fixed intently on the tablet in his hands. Defined cheekbones, a pristine white shirt. A subtle smile danced at the edge of his lips. As I walked by, he glanced up at that very moment. He greeted her with a cheerful, "Good morning." Uncomplicated, respectful, warm and inviting. Yet it halted my progress. Not due to his words, yet the manner in which he expressed it. It was more than a mere good morning, as if it marked the dawn of a new chapter. I returned the smile, gave a nod, and continued on my way. Yet I sensed it, the subtle glimmer, the perilous form of attention that goes unnoticed until it is unexpectedly bestowed upon you. I passed Marcus his coffee. He scarcely lifted his gaze. "Thanks, darling," he murmured, fingers dancing across the keyboard. I lingered there for a brief moment, merely observing him. He remained oblivious. Thus I pivoted, strolled back down the corridor. As I walked by Adam's corner once more, he remained in his place, continuing to observe. That night I searched for him online. Adam Green, a skilled software engineer. Merely a matter of curiosity, merely a sense of ennui. That is precisely what I reminded myself. However, I found myself clicking on his LinkedIn. Next came his Instagram. Few photographs existed, primarily vistas, paths through nature. A handful of snapshots featuring a golden retriever, accompanied by the caption, "Rex, the true master of my heart." A smile graced my lips. He saved one of his photos without a second thought. The scene unfolded at a lake during dusk, serene, cloaked in violet hues, and untouched by disturbance. In the caption he expressed, "At times silence speaks volumes beyond our words." In the following week I found myself walking past his desk once more. This time I placed a chocolate bar next to his monitor, accompanied by a note, "Extended gatherings require a touch of sweetness." That evening he sent me an email. "Finest chocolate of the week. I hold you responsible for the 5 pounds that are surely on their way to me. Elise, you possess a certain peril." He uttered my name. "Not Mrs. Walker. Not ma'am. Elise." My heart leapt. And then, I responded, "Dangerous feels like an intense description for a Snickers bar. However, I shall permit it." He replied almost instantly, "I'm referring to something beyond the chocolate." I kept it to myself. Not even I. For the simple act of voicing it would have rendered it undeniable. Yet a fissure had formed deep within me. A door I believed had been locked away by the passage of time, by the demands of motherhood, by the role of being someone's companion. And now, a younger man who served beneath my husband, it was as if I had been cast back into the role of the protagonist once more. I despised the depth of my affection for it. It all began with emojis, innocuous symbols, grinning faces, approving gestures, and the rare playful coffee cup with a wink. Unquestionable matters. Yet it evolved into sentences, subsequent paragraphs. Then the conversations at midnight that stretched far beyond the moment the screen faded to darkness. Yet I reassured myself. Simply amicable. He possesses a gentle kindness. He is youthful. He likely behaves this way with everyone. Yet, beneath the surface I was aware of the truth. And even more troubling, I yearned for it to be greater. The first time his name illuminated my phone after 10 p.m., I found myself nestled on the couch, a book resting in my hands that I wasn't truly absorbing. Marcus found himself once more in the guest room, having cultivated a routine of retreating there, to escape the symphony of snoring. I ceased my inquiries when it solidified into permanence. The communication was straightforward. Rest eludes me. Have you ever experienced those nights when your mind refuses to quiet down? I gazed at it intently. Subsequently I wrote, constantly. My thoughts often stir to life when the world around me has settled into a serene hush. He responded without delay. Your expression is truly captivating. Only a mere 10 words. Yet, they brought me a sense of recognition that had eluded me in my husband's words for months. From that evening forward, it transformed into a ritual. He would send a message after 10. I will respond at approximately 10:05. By the age of 11, we found ourselves divulging everything from our beloved books to the perfect song we'd choose to accompany a kiss that was perhaps best left unspoken. He shared with me that his choice was slow dancing in a burning room. I held back my response for a moment. He subsequently reached out with, "Is it overly theatrical?" I responded, "No." Exceedingly precise. Our exchanges held a unique closeness that remained hidden from the outside world. It existed in the realm of the digital, unseen, yet utterly captivating. It's akin to discovering a diary where someone has thoughtfully penned responses in the margins to inquiries you had yet to voice. On a particular evening, he shared with me an image of a streetlight mirrored in a puddle, accompanied by the words, "Brought you to mind. Calm amidst the storm." I gazed at it for a duration I'm reluctant to confess. It was merely a puddle. Yet, it had been years since anyone likened me to tranquility. I started to change my attire when I visited the office. Gentler lipstick. Opt for heels rather than flats. Jewelry that had remained untouched since the days of our honeymoon. I reassured myself that it was solely for my own sake. It was a pleasure to experience the warmth of well-being. Yet it wasn't meant for me. Not completely. It was the way his gaze met mine from across the room. The manner in which his gaze followed me, not driven by desire, but by a deep sense of intrigue. As if I were a masterpiece. Or blaze. Marcus remained oblivious. Not the fragrance. Not the radiance. Not the moments I devoted to glancing at my phone beneath the table. He was strategizing for a business expansion. In quietude, I found myself gradually coming undone. And Adam appeared to be the sole observer of it all. One morning following a monthly staff meeting, I lingered to gather the abandoned coffee cups. Adam entered the room. He leaned down a bit to assist in collecting napkins and paper plates, then hesitated. "What compels you to act that way every time?" he inquired. "What should I do?" His gaze met mine, firm, inscrutable. "Behave as though you are unseen." I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. In that fleeting instant, the atmosphere surrounding us shifted. The day when everything began to unravel commenced like any other. Precipitation. The flow of vehicles on the road. A yet another catered lunch accompanied by an excessively lengthy meeting in the executive boardroom. Marcus found himself in one of those moments, intensely concentrated, unyielding. I settled next to him, acknowledging with nods when necessary, and sharing smiles at the right moments. The devoted spouse. The unseen presence. As the meeting drew to a close, I lingered behind to assist with the cleanup, an ingrained habit I had yet to outgrow. We collected the binders and discarded the paper cups. I was only partially engaged in Marcus's conversation with his CFO when he dismissed me with a wave. "Are you able to manage this, Elise? I must prepare for the upcoming investor call." "Certainly," I replied. He was oblivious to my presence. 10 minutes later I exited the boardroom, the tray in my hands devoid of any remnants, while my heart felt heavy and unresponsive. It wasn't until I reached the parking lot that the realization struck me. I had forgotten my phone. When I made my way back upstairs, the hallway had fallen into a serene silence. The majority of the staff had departed for the day. The glass boardroom lay vacant, save for a solitary figure positioned at the far end, clutching an object in his hand. Adam. His gaze lifted as I swung the door open. "You forgot this," he remarked, extending my phone toward me. I extended my hand toward it. Yet he held on tightly. It lingered in that moment, gaze locked with mine. It was understated. Yet electrifying. "I intended to deliver it to your car," he murmured softly. A part of me crumbled inwardly. The atmosphere surrounding us grew taut. I might have found it amusing, dismissed it casually. He picked up the phone and turned it over. In that moment I softly uttered, "Thank you." With unwavering determination he edged forward by a mere half-inch. I detected the subtle aroma of his cologne in the air. "This room has never been to my liking," he remarked. "What's stopping us?" "Countless souls masquerading as if they are untouched by solitude." I cast my gaze downward. Then she turned her gaze back to him. "Is that how you perceive me?" I inquired. "Is solitude your companion?" He remained unblinking. "It seems you've been absent for quite a while." The stillness that ensued weighed more than the most profound caress. For he was indeed correct. And to make matters worse, he witnessed it. He looked at me with a gaze that Marcus hadn't cast in years. I took a step back. He released the phone from his grasp. I began to walk away. Yet, just before I turned the handle, I uttered the words, "Please, Adam, don't give me that look." He remained silent. Yet, the image staring back at him from the glass spoke volumes. That evening, I lingered in my car, the engine silent, long after I had parked in our driveway. Fingers gripping the steering wheel, the engine silent, the phone's display dimmed. I felt the urge to send him a message. I felt an overwhelming urge to erase it all. For just a fleeting moment, I yearned to transform into another, perhaps a figure of courage or one of greater virtue. I stepped inside and pressed a kiss to my husband's cheek, as if the world outside had ceased to exist. Yet it had. And I realized it was far from finished. The following morning, Adam was absent from his desk. I reassured myself that it was the wisest choice. Perhaps he was retreating before either of us took a reckless step. However, as the clock struck noon, a delivery made its way to reception. A modest white box devoid of any accompanying note. Within lay a bar of rich, dark chocolate. The very same one I had placed on his desk weeks prior. In delicate script, inscribed on the inner flap of the box, "What I desire isn't the chocolate." 3 days had passed since the boardroom encounter. It had been 3 days since I had experienced the warmth of Adam's fingers brushing against my palm. Since he conveyed to me, without uttering a word, that I was not invisible to him. I had yet to respond to his sweetly wrapped message. I did not send a message. I had not laid eyes on him. Yet, he lingered in my thoughts, refusing to fade away. Not for a single moment. On that Friday, the company held an off-site gathering. Marcus was adamant that I attend. It was taking place in a hotel ballroom just 30 minutes from the office, designed to uplift spirits and honor our Q2 achievements. I slipped into a dress that had remained untouched for years. Obsidian. Exposed shoulders. Subtly audacious. As I entered the ballroom, Marcus remained engrossed in his conversation, oblivious to my presence. Yet Adam did. From across the room, his gaze ensnared mine like a jolt of electricity. His lips remained uncurled. He simply gazed. As if he understood that I adorned myself for his gaze. The occasion stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Ceaseless oratory, insincere chuckles, the sound of glasses meeting. Initially, I lingered near Marcus, driven by a mix of guilt, routine, or perhaps a touch of apprehension. Yet, he hardly acknowledged my presence. I wasn't introduced to anyone. Never once did they lay a hand upon mine. As the clock struck 10, I quietly made my way into the hotel courtyard. The atmosphere had taken on a chill. More serene. Truthful. Adam's decision to follow caught me off guard. Yet, I found no astonishment in his actions. "You're always slipping away," he remarked, his hands tucked into his pockets. I craved the breath of fresh air. "You required recognition." I glanced in his direction. He was not mistaken. His tie hung loosely around his neck. His sleeves were rolled up. A subtle tension gripped his jaw, as if he were restraining unspoken thoughts. "What do you think of the dress?" I inquired before I could hold my tongue. His response marked a progression, then yet another. In that moment we stood before each other, illuminated by the warm orange light of the courtyard lamp. "You look lovely in that dress," he murmured gently. "Yet I would cherish you even more without it." My breath was momentarily suspended. I am in a committed relationship. Not a single moment of that has slipped my mind. "So what brings you here?" He cast his gaze downward for a brief moment, then retreated with a form of unfiltered truth that unsettled me. "I've made attempts to quell my desire for you, Elise, and I simply cannot. I ought to have turned and left. I realized I ought to have. Instead, I murmured, my car's in the shop. It was Marcus who led me to this place. I find myself without a means to get home. I shall escort you," he declared, without a moment's doubt, and I allowed him to proceed. The journey began in silence, a silence that quivers just below the surface. His hand lay softly beside the gearshift. "Mine," far too near. He averted his gaze from me, yet I sensed his presence. Every inhalation, every thought he kept to himself. As we arrived at my house, he parked the car but left the engine running. "Would you like me to accompany you to the door?" he inquired. "I am not yet 18. "No," he replied. "You are not." I shifted my gaze in his direction, deliberately unfastening my seatbelt with a measured slowness. "Adam." "I understand," he interrupted. "I shall not lay a finger on you." And then, just as I was about to turn the handle, he interjected, "Yet you desire me to, do you not?" I remained silent. In that moment, silence resonated more profoundly than any admission could. I approached the front door, my keys quivering in my grasp. Yet, just before I twisted the knob, I cast a glance over my shoulder. His gaze remained fixed on me. I wasn't exactly prohibited, yet I was already his. I longed to claim that I put an end to it at that point. I took the ride home, stepped inside, and resolutely pushed any thoughts of Adam from my mind. Yet that would be untruthful. I've grown weary of deception, especially when it comes to my own heart. The reality is, I spent the night wide awake, not out of a sense of guilt. Yet, I remained acutely aware of the charged intensity of his gaze upon my skin. As dawn broke, I informed Marcus of an early appointment and slipped away before the sun had fully risen. However, I chose not to visit the spa, or perhaps to the market. I ventured to a coffee shop a couple of neighborhoods over, settled into a cozy corner, and awaited my moment. Adam entered, clad in a gray sweater, exuding that familiar nervous energy he always possessed when attempting to mask his underlying confidence. We remained untouched. Our lips never met. Yet our conversation stretched on for hours, concerning all matters, in silence. It was peculiar to experience such visibility, after enduring years of being merely an afterthought, concerning the stakes we had embraced by allowing it to progress to this point, concerning the notion that the moment had slipped away from us. I encountered him on 2 additional occasions following that. Upon arriving at the office, I carried the familiar offering of coffee, yet this time my hands trembled ever so slightly. And once again in the guest bathroom of our abode, Marcus had departed for a 3-day conference. Adam arrived, pretending to repair our internet router. We just managed to reach the hallway. Afterward, I perched on the rim of the bathtub, my knees pulled tightly to my chest. He pressed his lips to the nape of my neck and murmured, "You give me a sense of significance." I shifted my gaze in his direction. "Your existence holds significance." In that fleeting moment, both terrifying and beautiful, I truly believed it was sufficient, that this wild, delicate connection between us could thrive in the fissures of my existence. Perhaps I was not required to make a choice. I admit my mistake. 3 weeks later, Marcus summoned me to his office. The aroma of scorched espresso lingered in the atmosphere, while the silence enveloped me, a piercing presence that stung. He pushed his phone across the table with a deliberate motion, a snapshot captured by a security camera, the corridor beyond the server room, myself, Adam, uncomfortably near. It's painfully clear. You left your card key in the door, Marcus remarked, his tone devoid of inflection. I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me. There's nothing I could utter that wouldn't only deepen the chasm. 3 months ago I installed new cameras, he remarked, his gaze still averted from mine. I sensed it. My stomach plummeted. He refrained from raising his voice. I held back my tears. He never even inquired about my feelings for him. He simply stated, I'll take care of it. In the interest of the company. And for the little ones. He then requested my departure silently. Subtly. I was not dismissed from my position. I have been wiped from existence. 1 week later, Adam made the decision to resign. He failed to send me a message. No call was made. I also refrained from reaching out, for I understood the true weight of silence in this moment. It was not a matter of rejection. It was an act of compassion. Present, I find myself in solitude, within the confines of a modest apartment that gazes out upon a serene park. Each Thursday, I purchase a chocolate bar and place it on a bench, devoid of any note, simply as a gesture for anyone who might need it. At times, I find myself slipping into the black dress once more. For me, to hold on to the memory that, if only for an instant, someone truly noticed my existence. Not in the role of a wife. Not merely an accessory. However, from a female perspective. And even as I lost a marriage, a life, and an identity, I stumbled upon an unexpected discovery. A fragment of myself I believed had perished beneath another's influence. And I hold her close within me. Each stride, each inhalation. For once the truth is revealed, it remains forever etched in the mind, particularly when it has remained hidden for an extended period.